The stars twinkled peacefully above Jack Harper as he stood on the observation deck of Earth's International Space Station. At 42 years old, with graying hair at his temples and lines around his eyes from years of diplomatic service, Jack never imagined he would be the one to welcome aliens to humanity's home. Yet there he was, watching as the Zoraxian ship approached. It gleamed like polished silver in the sunlight, its unusual curved shape unlike anything humans had built. Jack straightened his blue uniform and touched the North American Union patch on his shoulder for luck. 2 minutes until they dock, said Lisa Wright over the station's comm system. Lisa was the best xenolinguist on Earth, a woman whose quiet determination had earned her this historic position. At 36, she had dedicated her life to understanding communication patterns, hoping one day to use those skills with alien visitors. Jack nodded, though she couldn't see him. "I'm ready. Let's make history." The year was 2157. Humanity had spread throughout the solar system, with colonies on Mars and mining operations near Jupiter, but they had never met intelligent life from beyond their star. Until 3 weeks ago, when the Zoraxian ship appeared near Neptune and broadcast a message of peace in perfect English. The ship docked with a soft thud. Jack watched through the transparent airlock door as pressure equalized. When the door slid open, he saw them for the first time. The Zoraxians stood slightly taller than humans. Their skin had a bluish tint, and their 4 eyes blinked in pairs. High Counselor Brachthy led the group, wearing ornate robes that shifted colors like oil on water. "Welcome to Earth Station," Jack said, extending his hand as he'd been instructed. "I am Jack Harper, Earth's diplomatic liaison." Brachthy's mouth, a straight line across his face, curved upward at the edges. "I am honored, Jack Harper. We have traveled far to meet your kind." His voice had a musical quality, rising and falling, in unusual patterns. Over the next few days, the Zoraxians shared stories of the galaxy. They described beautiful worlds orbiting distant suns and strange creatures that lived in gas clouds. They showed videos of their home planet, Zorax Prime, with its purple oceans and floating cities. "We are explorers," Brachthy explained during a formal dinner aboard the station. "We seek to learn about all life in our galaxy." Earth's governments welcomed the visitors with excitement. The Zoraxians offered to share technology, medicines that could cure diseases, energy systems that used no fuel, and materials stronger than anything on Earth. But not everyone felt comfortable with the aliens. Nathan Coleman watched the Zoraxian ship through powerful telescopes from Earth's defense headquarters in Denver. At 50, Nathan had spent 30 years in the military before taking his current role overseeing planetary security. His weathered face remained expressionless as he studied the data. "Something's not right," he told his assistant. "Their scan patterns don't match what they claim to be studying. They're mapping our defense systems." His concerns reached government officials but were quickly dismissed. "Don't ruin this historic moment with paranoia," the president told him during a video call. Meanwhile, Lisa Wright noticed problems too. While translating Zoraxian language patterns, she found hidden meanings that contradicted their spoken words. When they say cultural exchange, their language structure suggests preliminary assessment, she explained to Jack one evening as they shared coffee in the station's small kitchen. "It's like they're using friendly words to hide their real intentions." Jack frowned, stirring his coffee slowly. "Are you sure? Maybe their language just works differently from ours." "Maybe," Lisa admitted, "but I've analyzed over 50 hours of their speech. These patterns are consistent." Jack promised to pay closer attention, but the allure of alien technology was too strong for Earth's leaders to question their new friends. Countries competed for Zoraxian visitors, each hoping to gain technological advantages. 3 months after first contact, Zoraxian ships appeared in orbit around Earth. "To better facilitate our cultural exchange," Brachthy explained, 12 ships, each larger than the first, positioned themselves above major cities. In Denver, Nathan Coleman ordered increased alert levels for Earth's modest defense forces. His request for additional funding was denied. "We won't appear hostile to our visitors," his superiors said. At the Houston Space Center, Diane Martinez was upgrading Earth's communication array with Zoraxian components. The 28-year-old engineer had always been good with patterns, seeing connections others missed. While testing the new system, she noticed strange signals embedded within the normal transmissions. Curious, Diane wrote a program to extract these hidden signals. Late one night, alone in the control room with only the glow of her monitors for company, she ran the program. What appeared on her screen made her blood run cold. The signals contained detailed maps of Earth's resources, population centers, and defense capabilities. But worse, they included countdown timers and deployment coordinates. One phrase appeared repeatedly in the Zoraxian language, which she translated using the official dictionary, Resource Acquisition Operation. With shaking hands, Diane downloaded the data to a secure drive and called Nathan Coleman, whose contact information was in the security database. "Mr. Coleman, I'm Diane Martinez from Houston Space Center. I found something you need to see immediately." 6 hours later, Nathan, Diane, Jack, and Lisa met secretly at a small house outside Denver. Jack had returned to Earth for a scheduled meeting, and Lisa had insisted on coming with him, concerned by the urgent message. "They're planning something," Diane explained, showing them the data. "These aren't cultural exchanges, they're preparing for some kind of operation against Earth." Nathan's face grew grim as he studied the information. "These are military deployment patterns. I've seen similar strategies in war games." "The Galactic Council," Lisa whispered, pointing to a symbol that appeared throughout the transmissions. "They've mentioned this in passing, but always change the subject when I ask about it." Jack shook his head in disbelief. "I've been working with them daily. Why wouldn't I notice this?" "Because they wanted you to trust them," Nathan said simply. "They decided to bring their evidence to the highest levels of government." But before they could leave, Diane's phone alerted her to a new transmission from the Zoraxian ships. "They've moved up the timeline," she said, her voice tight with fear. "Whatever they're planning starts tomorrow." Jack stared out the window at the night sky, where the Zoraxian ships were visible as bright points of light among the stars. "We need to warn everyone," he said. "Now." But it was already too late. As dawn broke over each major city around the world, the Zoraxian ships deployed atmospheric processors, massive machines that began changing Earth's air, making it slowly toxic to humans while preserving the planet's valuable resources. The betrayal had begun, and humanity was not prepared. 6 months had passed since the Zoraxians revealed their true intentions. The skies over Earth had changed from blue to a sickly greenish yellow as the atmospheric processors did their work. Breathing without a mask had become impossible in most cities. Ben Wallace stood at the window of the underground command center, looking at screens that showed the surface world. At 48, Ben had not expected to become the leader of Earth's last military forces. His dark hair was now streaked with gray, his face lined with the strain of constant battle. "Status report," he said to the room of tired officers. "We lost Phoenix an hour ago," said a young woman at the communication station. "The processor there reached full capacity. Anyone still in the city is—" She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what it meant. Ben nodded grimly. "And our strike team?" Still radio silent. "They should reach Chicago within the hour." In an armored vehicle speeding toward what was left of Chicago, Jack Harper checked his oxygen levels. Next to him, Lisa Wright adjusted her weapon, an alien device they had captured and modified to work for human hands. "Do you think Kelva will be there?" Lisa asked. Jack's jaw tightened. Kelva was a Zoraxian diplomat he had worked closely with. During those first deceptive months, they had shared meals, stories, and what Jack had thought was friendship. "Intel says she's overseeing the Chicago processor. If she's there, we'll find her." Their vehicle, salvaged from military reserves and modified with scavenged Zoraxian parts, moved silently through the ruins of the American Midwest. Fields that once grew corn and wheat were now dry and dead, the soil poisoned by the changing atmosphere. "I still don't understand why," Lisa said quietly. "They could have traded with us. We would have shared our resources." Jack stared out the window. "From what we've learned, The Galactic Council doesn't trade with primitive species. They simply take what they want. The team reached Chicago as night fell. Once a proud city of skyscrapers, now half the buildings had collapsed. The atmospheric processor stood in what had been Grant Park, a massive tower reaching up into the clouds surrounded by Xeraxian guards and equipment. "There," whispered Jeff Burton, their team's scout, pointing to a building near the processor. "Command center, and look who's coming out." Through binoculars, Jack saw a familiar figure. Kelva's distinctive purple robe stood out among the other Xeraxians. His hands tightened on the binoculars. "Remember the mission," Lisa said, touching his arm. "We need information more than revenge." Their attack was swift and precise. Months of fighting had taught humans to use their smaller size in greater numbers against the larger Xeraxians. While most of the team created a diversion on the west side of the processor, Jack, Lisa, and 2 soldiers entered the command building. Alarms blared as they fought their way to the central room. When they burst through the door, Kelva was there, trying to destroy data files. "Stop!" Jack shouted, raising his weapon. Kelva turned, her 4 eyes widening in pairs. "Jack Harper, you survived." "No thanks to you," he said, his voice cold. "Step away from the console." Lisa moved to the computers, beginning the process of downloading the Xeraxian data. The 2 soldiers secured the room, closing and barricading the door. "Why did you do this?" Jack asked Kelva. "We welcomed you. We trusted you." Kelva's face remained expressionless in the way of her species. "It was nothing personal, Jack. Your world was marked for harvesting centuries ago. The Council has protocols for resource-rich planets with primitive species." "Primitive?" Jack stepped closer, anger making his voice shake. "We built civilizations. We created art and music. We explored our solar system. And you killed each other by the millions," Kelva responded. "Your entertainment broadcasts show your love of violence. Your history is filled with war. The Council determined your kind too savage to join galactic society, but your planet too valuable to leave alone." An explosion rocked the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We need to move," Lisa said, securing the data device. "The team can't hold them off much longer." They bound Kelva and took her with them. Their escape was chaotic, running through burning buildings as Xeraxian weapons fire followed them. 2 team members fell, but the rest made it to their vehicles with their prisoner and the precious data. Hours later, deep in the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Amy Nichols reviewed what they had stolen. At 39, Amy had been a leading quantum physicist before the invasion. Now she worked in a secret lab built inside the mountain, studying Xeraxian technology. "This is it," she said, her eyes bright with excitement despite the exhaustion evident on her face. "This is what we've been looking for." Jack, Lisa, and Ben gathered around her computer. On the screen were schematics for the Xeraxian ships, their propulsion system, Amy explained, pointing to complex diagrams. "It uses quantum folding to achieve faster-than-light travel. But look here." She highlighted a section of the engine. "There's a fundamental vulnerability. If we can create a disruption field at this specific quantum frequency, we can disable their engines completely." "Can we build something that does that?" Ben asked. Amy nodded slowly. "With what we've captured?" "So far, yes. I'll need time and resources, but it's possible." In a cell nearby, Kelva watched the humans through a one-way window. Under interrogation, she had revealed more about the Galactic Council than she intended. "You don't understand what you're fighting," she had told them. "The Council controls 17 advanced species across hundreds of star systems. Your Earth is just one of dozens of worlds being harvested right now." "Why tell us this?" Lisa had asked. "Are you trying to make us give up?" Kelva's mouth had formed the Xeraxian equivalent of a sad smile. "No, I'm trying to help you understand the scale of what you face. The Council has existed for 12,000 years. No primitive species has ever successfully resisted. Now, watching the humans work together with determined faces, Kelva felt something unusual. Doubt. These humans were supposed to be fractured, fighting among themselves as they died. Instead, they had united. They were adapting, learning to use Zoraxian technology against its makers. For the first time, Kelva wondered if the Council had made a mistake in their assessment of humanity. Perhaps there was more to this species than their violent tendencies. Perhaps being savage gave them strength the Council had not anticipated. As night fell over the hidden base, Amy Nichols began building the first prototype of what would later be called the Pulse, the device that would give humanity its first real hope against their would-be destroyers. 1 year after the Zoraxian betrayal, Earth looked very different. Nearly half the planet's surface had become uninhabitable. The remaining humans lived in underground bases, subway tunnels, and military bunkers. Some areas, mostly in deep valleys, and mountain ranges remained barely livable with the help of protective domes. Steve Carter moved silently through the ruins of what had once been Seattle. At 35, the former FBI agent had become one of the most effective resistance leaders. His face was partially hidden behind a breathing mask, but his alert eyes missed nothing as he led his small team toward their target. "Patrol coming?" whispered Judy Kim, his second-in-command. "2 Zoraxians, standard gear." Steve signaled the team to hide. They pressed themselves into the shadows of a fallen building, weapons ready. The Zoraxian soldiers passed by, their breathing equipment making soft hissing sounds in the altered atmosphere. Once the aliens were gone, the team continued toward their objective, a small Zoraxian supply depot on the outskirts of the dead city. "Remember," Steve told them, "we need those power cells intact. No explosive weapons unless absolutely necessary." Similar missions were happening around the world. Humans had learned they couldn't win in direct battles against Zoraxian technology. Instead, they became experts at striking fast, taking what they needed and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Amy Nichols was putting the final touches on her creation. The Pulse looked simple, just a metal box with a few controls, but inside was a complex arrangement of quantum technology that had taken months to perfect. "It's ready for testing," she told Ben Wallace, who watched from the doorway of her lab. Ben nodded. "The team in Las Vegas has confirmed a small Zoraxian ship landed there yesterday. If this works," Amy said, "we can finally start fighting back for real." In orbit around Earth, Commander Olivia Ross prepared her team aboard the last functioning human space station. At 43, Olivia had been a decorated pilot before the invasion. Now she commanded a cobbled-together crew operating the few remaining orbital defense platforms. "Pulse devices aboard and ready," reported her weapons officer. "Power at maximum capacity." Olivia took a deep breath. "This is our one shot. If this fails, they'll destroy the station immediately." The plan was dangerous but necessary. The Pulse needed to be tested against a real Zoraxian ship, not just simulations. When a harvester vessel approached the station on its regular route to collect atmospheric data, they would activate the device. "Zoraxian harvester approaching," announced the sensor operator. 2 minutes to optimal range." Olivia opened a secure channel to the mountain base. "Control, this is orbital. Target is approaching. Permission to proceed." "Permission granted," came Ben's voice. "Good luck, orbital." The harvester ship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the human station. Its smooth silver surface reflected Earth's light as it moved confidently through space, unaware of the trap. 30 seconds to optimal range," said the weapons officer. "Pulse device powering up. 20 seconds, 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pulse activated." A silent wave of energy expanded from the station. Nothing visible happened for a moment. Then suddenly, the lights on the harvester ship flickered and went dark. The massive vessel began to drift. "Their shields are down," shouted the weapons officer. "Main systems appear offline." Olivia didn't hesitate. "Fire all weapons, target their engine section." The station's remaining weapons, railguns and missile launchers salvaged from old satellites, fired everything they had at the vulnerable ship. Explosions bloomed silently in space as the harvester's hull was breached in multiple places. "Direct hits confirmed," reported the weapons officer. They're breaking apart." For the first time in a year, humans had destroyed a major Zoraxian vessel. The cheer that went up in the control room was echoed in the mountain base when the news arrived. But the victory had consequences. 3 days later, a new ship appeared in Earth orbit. Unlike the others, this one was ornate, decorated with symbols of authority. Ambassador Zelkri had arrived from the Galactic Council. People of Earth, came the transmission on all frequencies. Your resistance is noted but futile. The Council offers terms. Surrender now, and your species will be relocated to a reservation planet where you may continue your existence. Refuse, and we will be forced to accelerate the harvesting process, which will result in the complete extinction of humanity. The message was received in the headquarters of the Earth Coalition, the unified government of the remaining human settlements. President Kate Summers, once the leader of Australia before the invasion, now represented all of humanity. At 52, her face showed the strain of the past year, but her resolve remained unbroken. They're scared, she told her advisors. This is the first time they've had to offer terms to a primitive species. What should we respond? Asked her communications director. Kate thought for a moment. Send them everything. All our footage of their atmospheric processors killing our people, the refugee camps, the destroyed cities. Put it on a loop on every frequency they use. She stood, up straight. Let the galaxy see what the Great Galactic Council does to primitive worlds. As the Council received Earth's response, another breakthrough was happening. Frank Matthews, a former computer hacker who now led Earth's intelligence efforts, had managed to infiltrate the Zoraxian communication network. At 30, Frank had always been able to find patterns in data that others missed. I'm in, he said, his eyes fixed on his screens as his fingers moved across the keyboard. I've accessed their deep space communications. Around him, his team watched nervously. This was the deepest anyone had penetrated into alien systems. There's so much here, Frank murmured. Wait, this is interesting. He pulled up a series of communications between the Council and their forces on 3 other planets. Look at this, he said, pointing to the screen. Planet designation KR7. Local name Nelvar. Species, aquatic, pre-FTL technology. Status, resisting harvesting operations, HO. Scrolled to another file. Planet designation TX19. Local name Therix. Species, crystalline silicon-based, pre-FTL. Status, resisting harvesting operations. And a third, planet designation VD3. Local name Volduin. Species, methane-breathing gaseous collective, pre-FTL. Status, resisting harvesting operations. Frank looked up at his team, his eyes wide with excitement. We're not alone. There are other species fighting back against the Council. This discovery would change everything. Earth was not fighting alone in the galaxy. There were potential allies out there, if only they could reach them. Frank Matthews stood before President Summers and the Earth Coalition leadership, explaining his discovery. The room was carved from solid rock beneath the Andes Mountains, one of humanity's last secure bases. We need to contact these other species, Frank said, pointing to the data on the screen. Together we might have a chance against the Council. President Summers leaned forward. How? We barely have ships that can reach Mars anymore. Jack Harper, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. We have a Zoraxian scout ship, the one we captured near Denver 3 months ago. All eyes turned to him. Jack continued. My team has been studying it. We think we can make it work. Even if we can fly it, said Ben Wallace. The Zoraxians would detect us immediately. Lisa Wright, who sat beside Jack, shook her head. Not necessarily. We've learned a lot about their detection systems from Kelva. With the right modifications, we might slip past their patrols. After hours of debate, a dangerous plan formed. They would use the captured scout ship to reach the nearest resisting species, the Nelvari. From there, they would try to form an alliance with all 4 resisting species. Who will go? Asked President Summers. Jack stepped forward. I will. Me too, said Lisa. We'll need someone who understands their language. Dr. Amy Nichols raised her hand. I should go as well. If we're sharing technology, you'll need someone who understands the pulse. In the end, a team of 8 was selected. Jack, Lisa, Amy, and 5 others with specialized skills. They knew the mission might be one way. If captured, they would likely never see Earth again. 2 weeks later, the modified scout ship lifted off from a hidden base in Antarctica. They had painted over the Zoraxian symbols and added human components to the systems. It wasn't pretty, but it might be enough to fool distant scanners. Course set for the Nelvari home system, said Greg Pearson, their pilot. At 31, Greg had been flying experimental aircraft before the invasion. Now he was about to become the first human to pilot a ship beyond the solar system. Engaging FTL drive in 3, 2, 1, Greg pressed the alien controls. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines, then vanished as the ship entered faster than light travel. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see if the stolen engine would hold together. "It's working," Greg said after a tense minute. "We're on course for Nelvar. Travel time 11 days. The journey was uncomfortable. The ship had been designed for Zoraxian bodies, not human ones. They took turns sleeping in the limited space and studied everything they could about the species they hoped to meet. The Nelvari are aquatic, Lisa explained during one of their briefings. They evolved in oceans but developed technology to move on land when needed. Jack added, "According to the Council files, their planet is mostly water. The Council has been trying to change that, draining oceans to access minerals beneath." On the 11th day, the ship dropped out of FTL near a blue-green planet. Nelvar was beautiful, with vast oceans broken only by scattered islands and one small continent. "I'm picking up signals," said Mia Lawrence, their communications specialist. "Definitely not Council standard. Must be Nelvari." "And I'm detecting Council ships in orbit," Greg warned. 6 of them, including a harvester. "Can we avoid them?" Jack asked. Greg studied his controls. "I think so. The planet's magnetic field is strong at the poles. If we approach from the southern pole, staying low in the atmosphere, we might make it to the surface undetected." The landing was rough. They touched down in shallow water near a small island, the ship half submerged. Through the viewports, they could see strange structures beneath the waves, the Nelvari equivalent of cities. "How do we contact them?" Amy wondered. As if in answer, the water around their ship began to bubble. Sleek forms rose to the surface. Nelvari. They had streamlined bodies with 4 limbs that could function as either arms or fins. Their skin shimmered with blue-green patterns, and their large eyes blinked from behind clear membranes. "We come, in peace," Lisa said through the ship's external speakers, using the Nelvari language she had studied from the stolen files. "We are from Earth, another world being harvested by the Galactic Council. We seek alliance." For a long moment there was no response. Then one of the Nelvari approached the ship. It carried a device that projected its voice. "Earth beings," it said in the musical tones of its language. "I am Shulka, leader of the Nelvari resistance. Why should we trust a ship bearing council markings?" Lisa translated for the others, then responded, "We stole this ship. Like you, we fight the Council's attempt to destroy our world." Jack had an idea. He activated the ship's data system and displayed footage of Earth cities being poisoned by atmospheric processors and of human resistance fighters battling Zoraxian forces. Shulka watched, its patterned skin changing colors with emotion. Finally, it spoke again. "Come. Follow. We take you to safe place." The humans gathered their essential equipment and exited the ship into the warm, salty water. The Nelvari provided them with breathing devices, then led them down into the depths. The underwater Nelvari city was unlike anything humans had imagined. Buildings made of shaped coral and a clear, glass-like substance housed thousands of Nelvari. Many areas contained air pockets for land-dwelling visitors. In a large chamber filled with air, representatives from the Nelvari government met with the human delegation. Through Lisa's translations, they shared their stories of resistance against the Council. "Council began draining our seas 5 cycles ago," Shulka explained. "Already 1/10 of our water is gone. Many Nelvari have died." "On Earth, they're poisoning our air," Jack replied. We've lost nearly half our population. Amy showed them the pulse technology. This disrupts their shields and engines. We've used it to destroy one of their harvesters. The Nelvari were impressed. They shared their own innovation, biological weapons that could target specific council species without harming others. We have contact with Tharix and Voldun, Shulka told them. Together, perhaps we can fight. Over the next few days, representatives from all 4 species gathered in the underwater city. The crystalline Tharix, who communicated through light patterns, offered advanced computing systems immune to council hacking. The gaseous Voldun, existing within special containment suits, shared stealth technology that could hide ships from council sensors. Together, they formed what they called the Sovereignty Alliance. 4 species, each fighting for survival, now united against a common enemy. Dr. Amy Nichols worked with scientists from all 4 species to enhance the pulse technology. If we combine the pulse with Voldun stealth tech and Tharix computing, she explained, we could create a weapon that not only disables council ships but permanently damages their systems. As the Alliance planned their counterattack, a message arrived from Earth. Frank Matthews had discovered something crucial. The Council was planning a celebration, Council Day, marking 12,000 years since their founding. All major Council forces would gather at their central world. It's the perfect time to strike, Jack told the Alliance leaders. Their defenses will be divided between the ceremony and ongoing harvesting operations. The plan they devised was bold: simultaneous attacks on Council operations across all 4 worlds, culminating in a strike at the heart of the Council itself. Back on Earth, Steve Carter's resistance forces, now equipped with Voldun stealth technology, began a campaign to destroy the atmospheric processors. For the first time since Tialisao, the invasion, humans were reclaiming their planet piece by piece. The tide was turning. Council Day arrived. The gas giant Zealous Prime shone like a jewel, its swirling storms visible from the massive habitat ring that orbited it. This was the heart of the Galactic Council's power, where representatives from the 17 ruling species gathered to celebrate their long dominion over the stars. Grand Arbiter Drozik stood on the ceremonial platform, his 6 limbs adorned with the symbols of his office. As the oldest living member of the founding species, he had opened the Council Day ceremonies for over 200 years. 12,000 years of order, he announced to the assembled dignitaries. 12,000 years of progress under the Council's guidance. Unknown to Drozik, Jack Harper and his mixed-species strike team were already inside the habitat ring. Using Voldun stealth technology, they had slipped past the outer defenses. Their mission was the most dangerous of all. The coordinated attacks happening across the galaxy. Security control is 2 levels down, whispered Krell, their Tharix ally. The crystalline being's body glowed faintly with suppressed light patterns. Guards, 4 Council enforcers. Jack nodded. His team consisted of 2 humans, a Nelvari, a Tharix, and a Voldun, representatives from all 4 resisting species. They moved silently through the maintenance corridors, avoiding the celebration. Across the galaxy, the other attacks had begun. On Earth, President Summers watched from the command center as Steve Carter's forces disabled atmospheric processors. Worldwide, in orbit, Commander Olivia Ross led a fleet of ships, some human, some captured Zoraxian vessels, against the Council's harvesting fleet. Similar battles raged around Nelvar, Tharix, and Voldun. For the first time, the Council faced coordinated resistance on multiple fronts. They're responding exactly as we predicted, said Frank Matthews, monitoring Council communications. They're pulling ships from the ceremony to reinforce their harvesting operations. This was what they had been counting on. With the Council's central defenses weakened, Jack's team had their opening. On the habitat ring, Jack's team neutralized the guards at the Security Control Center. The Voldun member of their team, a gaseous entity named Miss That Thinks, flowed into the computer systems through specialized interfaces. I have accessed their network, Miss That Thinks announced, beginning transmission to all Council worlds. Back, in the Grand Ceremony Hall, Drozik's speech was interrupted when the large screens around him suddenly changed. Instead of showing the Council's glorious history, they displayed scenes of devastation. Atmospheric processors poisoning Earth's air, ocean drainers stealing Nelvar's waters, crystal shatterers breaking apart Theric settlements, and gas harvesters capturing Vol'dun families. The assembled dignitaries gasped and murmured as the evidence of their atrocities played before their eyes. Some turned away, unable to watch. Others stared in shock, having never seen the reality of resource acquisition operations. Before Drozik could order the screen shut down, another image appeared. President Kate Summers of Earth, her face resolute. "People of the Galactic Council," she said, her words translated into all Council languages. "For too long you have preyed upon those you considered primitive. You have destroyed worlds, murdered populations, and stolen resources that were not yours to take." As she spoke, Jack's team moved to their final position, the central power core of the habitat ring. Dr. Amy Nichols had adapted the pulse technology for their most ambitious target yet. "Today that ends," President Summers continued. "Not just for Earth, but for all species who wish to live free from your tyranny." Grand Arbiter Drozik finally recovered from his shock. "Cut this transmission," he ordered. "Deploy all remaining ships. Find the source of this intrusion." But it was too late. Throughout the Council fleet, enhanced pulse devices activated simultaneously. Ships lost power, weapons went offline, and shields failed. The Council's mighty armada became dead, metal floating in space. In the habitat ring's power core, Jack looked at Amy. "Ready?" She nodded, making final adjustments to their device. "This will send a quantum pulse through their entire network. Every piece of Council technology connected to their central systems will be affected." "Do it," Jack said. Amy activated the device. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the lights throughout the habitat ring flickered and dimmed. In the ceremony hall, Grand Arbiter Drozik was frantically trying to regain control when Jack Harper walked onto the stage, flanked by his team members. The security forces couldn't stop them. Their weapons had been disabled by the pulse. "Grand Arbiter," Jack said, his voice echoing through the hall. "The Sovereignty Alliance demands your immediate and unconditional surrender." Drozik drew himself up to his full height, nearly twice that of Jack. "You dare? You are nothing. Primitives playing with technology you don't understand." "We understand enough," Jack replied calmly. "We understand that during your invasion of Earth, Dr. Amy Nichols discovered something about your quantum technology. Something you've kept secret even from most of your own people." Amy stepped forward. "Your FTL drives, your weapons, your entire infrastructure relies on quantum folding technology, but it's inherently unstable. Push it too far, and it creates a cascade effect," Jack continued. "We've placed quantum destabilizers throughout your systems. With one command, we can trigger that cascade. Your civilization would collapse entirely." "You're bluffing," Drozik hissed. "You wouldn't destroy an entire civilization. Your primitive moral codes wouldn't allow it." "Perhaps not," Jack admitted. "But we don't need to destroy you to defeat you." He gestured around the room. "Your own people have seen the truth now. They've seen what you've done in their name." It was true. Many of the Council representatives were looking at their leaders with new eyes, horrified by the images they had seen. A representative from one of the 17 ruling species stood up. "Is this true, Arbiter? Have we been harvesting inhabited worlds rather than uninhabited ones as you claimed?" More representatives rose, demanding answers. The Council's unity was fracturing before their eyes. President Summers' voice came through the speakers again. "Here are our terms. All harvesting operations will cease immediately. All occupied worlds will be freed. Technology will be shared fairly among all species. And a new galactic assembly will replace the Council, with equal representation for all sentient species." Faced with internal revolt and external defeat, Drozik had no choice. "We accept your terms." 3 months later, Jack Harper stood with Lisa Wright on a hillside in what had once been Colorado. The air was still not perfect, but it was breathable. Plants were beginning to grow again as the atmospheric processors, now reprogrammed, worked to heal the damage they had caused. They're dismantling the last processor in Australia today, Lisa said, looking at her datapad. Earth is officially free. Jack nodded, watching a former council ship land in the valley below. It carried representatives from the new Galactic Assembly coming to formally welcome Earth as a full member. Was it worth it? Lisa asked quietly. All the suffering, all the deaths? Jack thought about the question. I don't know if anything could be worth what we lost, he finally answered. But we didn't just save Earth. We changed the galaxy. No species will ever be treated as primitive again. As they walked down to meet the Assembly representatives, Jack thought about how the Council had labeled humans as savages because of their capacity for violence. They hadn't understood that the same determination that drove humans to fight wars also drove them to protect what they loved. Their home, their people, their right to exist. Earth's savage revenge had indeed shocked the Galactic Council. But, more importantly, it had created something better in its place. A galaxy where all sentient beings could live as equals under the stars.